Clemson is a 13.5-point dog going into their week 1 opener against the Georgia Bulldogs. And the last time these two teams faced off against each other a couple of years ago, Georgia won 10-3 in an all-out dogfight. And going into this year's matchup, is Clemson going to get taken to the dog pound by Georgia? Georgia is the unanimous best team entering this season. They got a great defense. They got a stacked offense. Carson Beck is regarded by most to be the best quarterback in college football. And when you think about Clemson, this is a prove-it year for them. Are they still an elite program? Dabo Swinney, much has been made about his stubbornness towards utilizing the transfer portal, and he's relying solely on recruiting and player development. And we know that Clemson is going to have a good defense this year. No matter who they lose, they always do a really good job at reloading on that side of the football. And my question with Clemson in this game doesn't lie with, can they slow down Georgia's offense? Their defense is more than capable of being able to get Georgia's offense off the field. The big key for Clemson being able to make this a competitive game is going to come down to how improved is this offense going to be year 2 under offensive coordinator Garrett Riley. Last year, they made some strides in the right direction, but Cade Klubnik was still mildly inconsistent. You didn't get good wide receiving play, and your offensive line still struggled to protect Cade Klubnik as well. Well, this year, Clemson's offense could take a massive leap. And if Clemson gets productive offense in this game, this is going to turn into a war between these two teams. Georgia, although they do have the talent advantage, let's not make it seem like Dabo Swinney is just some scrub as a head coach. He's going to have this team ready to play. They're going to be amped up. They're going to be motivated. I always felt like Dabo Swinney at his best is when he's able to dig into that underdog role. Remember before Clemson became a national name, he always had the advantage of being able to say, everybody's doubting us, nobody is giving us a chance, we're the David, and everybody that we're playing up against is Goliath. Well, he can get back into that bag in this game. Not too many people believe that Clemson has a shot at winning this thing, but I believe that they have a good chance of being able to pull off the upset if you can get productive play out of your offense. You finally have good receivers again. You got Tyler Brown, who returns. He was your leading receiver from last year. And you got two outstanding true freshman wideouts in Brian Westcott, TJ Moore. Expect those two guys to have significant roles in this game. And your offensive line issues should finally be solved with the hiring of the new offensive line coach that you brought in from Georgia. Clemson's offense, I believe, is going to be good enough against Georgia to put points up in this game. And with them already having a good defense, they're going to make this a dogfight. I would be extremely surprised if Georgia goes into this game and they just spit in Clemson's face and they just put their feet all over their faces and rub their heads into the dirt, because Clemson, this is probably the best team that they've had since we last saw them in the college football playoffs. You should see Cade Klubnik take that next step in development with him having a second year of Garrett Riley's offense. And Garrett Riley, remember, this was the main reason why TCU went to the national championship not too long ago, because he was their offensive coordinator. He won the Jim Broyles Award that year, which goes to college football's best assistant coach. And when he got hired by Clemson, he left TCU to take this offensive coordinator job. It was assumed by most, myself included, that he wasn't going to be around long until he ends up getting a head coaching job. So I expect Garrett Riley's offense to play a major role in Clemson being able to cover this 13.5-point spread. I really believe in Dabo Swinney. I don't think that he's gotten worse as a head coach. It's just that he has this certain philosophy that with the new age of college football now, it's kind of viewed as outdated. But we don't know that for sure. This season is going to verify just if the game has passed Dabo Swinney by, and you got to be able to utilize the portal if you want to be able to be a championship team. But I'm not going to write off Dabo Swinney just because it's presumed that his way doesn't work anymore. This game is going to define how the rest of this year goes for Clemson. They don't need to win this game, but they do need to keep this close and competitive, because if they can't, how can I trust you to beat Miami? How can I trust you to beat Virginia Tech? If Virginia Tech ends up being good and you got to go on the road to Blacksburg to play an undefeated VT team, it's hard for me to see you winning that game. If Clemson still is an elite program, this is going to be the game that shows us that they are good enough that they should be able to keep this game within 10 points. You know that with Georgia, you don't have a lot of room for error. But you do have a defense that is good enough to maybe keep Georgia to only 10 points at halftime. But if your offense doesn't end up showing up and you have the same outcome on that side of the ball that you've gotten the last couple of years, no matter how good your defense plays, they can only do so much until Georgia starts to wear them out and they start to take them to Pound Town. A good benefit that Clemson has in this ball game is that Georgia's going to be down one of their top running backs, but you still do have Trevor Etienne, who's one of the better running backs in college football. But Georgia isn't incredibly deep at wide receiver. This is a team that, from a talent standpoint on paper, they look like they should clobber Clemson. But when this game actually gets played, you're going to see a Clemson team that, with an improved offense, they're going to be able to make this a close game. And if we're going into the last 5 minutes in the fourth quarter and Clemson is down only by 7 points, that's automatically a win, in my opinion, for Clemson, because you were able to make this a competitive enough game that you put yourself in striking distance of maybe being able to pull off a big play or two that can lead you to the upset. Georgia recruits better than any program in America. They've out-recruited Clemson. But the gap between Georgia and Clemson is not as huge as what you may think. Georgia's right here. Clemson's a couple notches below that. There's enough talent in place, along with the coaching staff that Dabo Swinney has assembled, for Clemson to have the stars perfectly aligned to make this a potential upset. It's week 1 of the 2024 college football season, and we've already seen a good amount of chaos already. Florida State going down to Georgia Tech, and many folks believe this year could be a lot similar to what we saw in 2007 when it was madness every week. This is a neutral site setting. It's being played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but it pretty much is a de facto home game for Georgia because Atlanta is not too far away from Athens. But Clemson is no stranger to playing in these big-time games and these hostile environments. They came really close to beating Florida State last year. A lot of us forget that. And there were a couple of losses that they had that they just came up short in the big moments. This is a team with the experience that they now have on offense. They know how to close out games. If this ends up being a one-possession game going into the fourth quarter, I love Clemson's chances of being able to walk away with the upset. I really do. And I really believe that Georgia, despite how good they are, Clemson is probably one of those teams that people have written off, but with the fact that they've done a good job of recruiting and developing talent on defense, you would expect that to eventually carry over to the offense. And this is the most confidence that I've had in Clemson's offense since they had Trevor Lawrence. I see Clemson losing this thing 30-27 is my final score prediction, but I do believe that Clemson has enough to make this a competitive game and potentially pull off the upset. I don't think that they're going to get dog walked by Georgia like how Vegas and ESPN's FPI may indicate.